And it is now time to call to order the Warrensville Heights City School District Board of Education regular meeting. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Elba?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
And Mrs. Gator?
Here. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and everybody please be seated. So we have on here that we're to enter into executive session, but this is actually going to be a change. We are not going into executive session, so I would like to move to 1.6 and ask for an approval of the agenda. Dr. Kaber, are there any changes to the agenda that you know of?
No.
Thank you. The only thing that I want to bring to the board's attention is under item 6.1. It's a resolution authorizing payment in lieu of transportation. The dollar amount says $250, but it should actually read $8,000, and that's for 32 students that we'll be transporting. So if you could just make that adjustment. And board members, do you have any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing no changes. And Dr. Rocca, again, I just want to make sure that you have certified that all of the funds are available for the items that we're voting on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you like me to hand out that amendment for the $8,000?
You can, if they, do any of the board members want to see the amendment?
You can hand it out. I'll take one.
Okay, thank you. All right, so then at this time, I'd like to ask for an approval of item 1.6, approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve
motion.
1.6 on the agenda, approval
May I
of
have-
the, approval of the agenda, July 28th, 2016.
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Mitchell. Any questions or comments about any of the items on the agenda? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes, motion passed 5-0. Item 1.7, I'm asking for an approval of the minutes for the following dates of June 9th and June 23rd. Can I please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve 1.7 approval of minutes, dates June 9th, 2016 informational meeting and June 23rd, 2016 regular meeting.
I may have a second.
A second.
It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Mitchell. Any questions or comments?
Yes. There's one amendment to the minutes, and we discussed this in the meeting. And this was before I was treasurer, if I was in the audience. We clarified the school year. So the new language is the vote that's added in there. And this was reflected in the minutes to have that memorialized. So the sentence is to offer employment to the individuals listed as teachers for the period of 1 year, effective for 2016-17 school year, beginning July 2016 through June 30th, 2017. That's the school year. And then the new language is the teacher effective date of employment is August 19th, that's their first report to work day.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do. The teacher's report to work day is August 18th.
8th?
18th.
18th?
Yes.
We could fix it to that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Doctor.
Yes, Mrs. Elk?
Never mind.
Does that help clarify the school year? Thank you, Dr.
Okay, thank you. All right, so any other questions or comments about the minutes from those two dates? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. Item 1.8 is public.
Excuse me. Dr. Rock, I just have a quick question.
Is it on the one we just went over?
Yeah. Dr. Rock, for one set says the start date is August 11th and another is August 18th. Is there a reason, or Dr. Caver, why they're starting differently?
The new teachers, if they're new to the district, they have to go to new teacher orientation on August 11th, and that's a part of the contract, so that may be why their date says August 11th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So again, item 1.8, public participation. Dr. Rock, do we have any cards from any community members?
No,
No?
nothing was
Okay.
correspondence.
Thank you. All right, so moving right along, this is a regular meeting. The majority of the items were discussed at the informational meeting, so this should be a relatively quick meeting. I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Rock for item number 2, which is the treasurer's report and financial recommendations. So 2.1, we have an account agreement. Is there anything that you would like to state about this item, please?
Yes, this will maximize our funds and give us the opportunities to have those investment opportunities to maximize our investments within our investment policy and within all the Ohio revised codes.
Okay. And then 2.2 is a then and now?
Yes, the then and now was in the graphics department. They needed some paper, and it was ordered, and it was over $3,000, so we have to put a then and now on it.
Okay.
And we have the funds for that.
Thank you very much. All right, so at this time, I'd like to ask for a consent agenda on those 2 items listed under item number 2. May I please have a motion for a consent agenda for those 2 items?
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve on the agenda consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations 2.1, account agreement, and 2.2, the then and now.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Moomin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. We have nothing under item 3. All those items were voted on at the last meeting. Item number 4 is, again, a consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff. Asking for a consent agenda on 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve on the agenda the number 4 consent superintendent's recommendation and presentations for board action certified staff, 4.1 employment new teachers, 4.2 employment Title I teachers, and 4.3 employment supplemental coaching.
Okay, may I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Mitchell. Any questions or comments about either of these, any of these items? They are new items from last week, from the last meeting. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. Item number 5, consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. We have nothing under this item here. And again, I am going to be asking for a consent agenda. We do have a resolution that needs to be read for 6-1 though, so I'm going to pull that one out separate. I'm going to ask for a consent agenda for 6-2, 6-3, 6-4, all the way down to 6-10. So I'm asking for a consent agenda for 6-2 through 6-10.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve number 6 on the agenda, consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, and 6.10.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Mitchell. Any questions or comments?
Dr. Caver, can you clarify some dates on here? I mean, this is, some things have dates, others don't. Is everything August 1st to June 30th?
I can't tell you that everything is August 1st to June 30th. If you want to tell me which ones you're specifically looking at, I can try to answer, or I can ask if any member of my team has the appropriate date.
6/2, 6/3.
Well, hold on one
4.
second. So 6/2 says it's services for the 2016-17 school year.
What's the dates?
So our school year, our fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th.
Thank you.
So
So
that would be the same
That
for
would be for
6.3.
6/3, thank you.
if it says 2016-2017 school year, and you can put this in the minutes, then it's going to be starting with July 1 through
June 30th.
June 30th.
2017.
Any other questions or comments?
So 6/6 is the only exception, Dr. Caver, correct?
Yes, that she put August 1st through June 30th.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. So now we're going to circle back to 6.1. Only reason why I pulled this out is because we've got a resolution for it. I am asking for a motion to accept item 6.1, resolution authorizing payment in lieu of transportation. And just to clarify, what this is for those students that are out of district. And if we are not able to, if it's not feasible for us to provide transportation for them to the school that they're attending, we will pay them a maximum of $250. Do I have that correct, Mr. Folkman? Okay,
But
all right.
this doesn't include high school students. Does not include high school students.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so again, 6.1, I'm asking for a motion to accept that item.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve number 6 of the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. 6.1, resolution authorizing payment in lieu of transportation. Dollar amount is $8,000. Approval of the resolution authorizes payment in lieu of transportation to parents at the cost of $8,000, 32 eligible students, and it's coming out of the general fund.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved by Member Freeman and second by Member Mitchell. Any other questions or comments about this item? What I would like to just kind of get clarification on for everyone. So what happens, Mr. Folkman or Dr. Rock, whoever would like to respond, if we have a parent that contacts us like we did before, after the fact? It would just need to come, at that point, it would need to come to the board for approval, is that correct?
Yes, but before that, it would be vetted through the Transportation Department.
Right.
Verifying that the student did indeed attend the non-public school, and that the dates of the attendance is verified, and then we could bring it to the board for approval, and then we could pay them.
Okay.
And that's, these 32 students here have been reviewed and with the Transportation Department and verified that those students did in fact go to non-public school, and they signed up for the payment in lieu. So we
Okay.
have all the complete paperwork for those 32 students.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please, we need to read the resolution, I apologize, yeah. Go ahead, Member Freeman.
A resolution authorizing payment in lieu of transportation, whereas and after a careful evaluation of all available options, it has been determined that it is practical to provide transportation for these students to their selected schools. And whereas the following factors identified in revised code 3327.02 have been considered. 1, the time and the distance required to provide the transportation. 2, the number of pupils to be transported. 3, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, and administration. 4, whether similar or equivalent service is provided to pupils eligible for transportation. 5, whether and to what extent the additional service unavoidable disrupts current transportation and schedules. 6, whether other remissible types of transportation are available. And 7, whether the option of offering payment in lieu of transportation is provided in revised code. Therefore, be it resolved that the Warrensville Heights City School District Board of Education hereby approves the declaration of impractical to transport for the identified students and offering them payment in lieu of transportation. List of eligible students, schools on file in the Transportation Department.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess at this point, I would like to ask for a motion to, excuse me, Dr. Ruck, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba, Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. Item number 7 is going to be our committee reports. Do we have a committee report? Well, I guess we'll start with community engagement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On August 18th, the Community Engagement Committee, along with the school district, is sponsoring a Tiger Pride community-wide cookout and pep rally. The community cookout will take place from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. where we'll have free food, line dancing, fun and games for our children and adults in the community. Currently, the administrative team has sent out letters to vendors seeking their participation. They have until August 5th to say yay or nay they will or will not participate. We are working with the Warrensville Heights City Hall, thank you, security and safety forces to ensure we'll have security for that event. Because as you know, they'll be preparing for their home days event, and they'll have to keep that area on Green Road secure as well. We reached out to all 3 cities' governments, the mayor and council members, fire and safety departments, to ask for their participation. This is truly a tri-city event, and we're looking forward to having those individuals participate. At 6 p.m., we're going to have a good old-fashioned pep rally and celebrate our fall athletes, our cheerleaders, our scholars that are Merit, Honor Roll, and National Honor Society. And if the administration teams at each of the schools are able to determine our children that are most improved, we would like to honor them as well. We also include in that number our children that have had perfect attendance as well. A special letter will be going to those families explaining what we're doing, why we want to do it, will be sent to those homes in the next week or so.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on. The committee, Danielle's not here, has done a lot of great work since here. Ms. Barbara's been a part of it. Mimi has been participating when Mrs. Moomin wasn't able to. So Dr. Rock was with us Monday evening. So lots of participation from the community and the committee. So we're looking forward to it, so I hope everyone can join us.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
And where's that being held at?
It's right here, Tiger Stadium.
Okay.
All right,
you.
very good.
Something got removed from the agenda. It needs to be on here.
Something
It's
else.
too late.
Yeah. Okay.
It was on the agenda on the informational.
We'll have to touch base on after the meeting then. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Go ahead. Member Freeman, do you have a report as well?
I do. I have several, actually. I'm going to go and do the building and grounds. Next week, me and the Business Affair Director, John Folkman, will get together and go over everything that we've done so far on buildings and grounds and just get a game plan on what we need to do and get our buildings ready for the 2016-17 school year. And me and Mr. Folkman will put that together. And I just appreciate you, John, working with me to see what we need for our scholars coming this school year. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to meet one more time with the committee and make their recommendations that they gave me and Mr. Fulton.
Can I just ask a question? So you guys are meeting to go over the recommendations that the committee gave you? Is that what you're doing?
Well, we're going over what concerns they had, actually.
Okay.
The concerns.
All right.
Then each of them, well, when I told them, they're going to get together and put together their own spin on each school and let us know, and me and Mr. Folkman will go through that. So we had 5 members, and Ms. Muman was there too, so
All right.
they're going to give us something.
And then you will be presenting to Mr. Jolly?
I'm going to present it to Mr. Jolly, and I'm going to present it to the board. You guys
Okay.
will have actual breakdown of what they said and what we need to do,
All
and our observation, and along with Mr. Folkman knows some of the problems we have with the buildings. Most of the teachers know, and I've talked to all except John Dewey's head janitor, so I got to talk to him, but I've talked to every single one of them. So they have spoke to me and Mr. Folkman individually, and they gave us their concerns. So we're going to address them before the school kicks off.
Okay, all right, just as long as, you know, my recommendation is that, and I'm sure you guys will, but just make sure that Mr. Jolly is completely in the loop on all of that. Yeah,
Oh, he'll be in the loop.
okay. Thank you. You have another one.
I do.
You weren't finished. I'm sorry.
I'm not. The facilities, I want to give kudos to Dr. Rock. He has actually reached out to the Ohio Facilities and Construction Commission, and he's set up a meeting next Thursday just to explore options. This is just his research that he's doing, and he's going to sit down with them and ask them some hard questions about new buildings in this district. So that is this coming Thursday.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, Dr. Rock, for reaching out to them and having them come up from Columbus to sit down at our board and give us some input on our facilities.
Thank you. And that ties into our presentation that we reviewed last week, last board meeting, on the different options to finance public school buildings.
Okay. And last but not least, my last committee is legislative. I've been working with the Black Caucus and their legislative lead, which is Al Long. Most of you guys met him. He had called me last month and reached out. They had a Black Caucus meeting. I think board member Elba attended. And he's been just giving me the play-by-play of what they're doing. If you can pass that down.
Sure.
He's been giving me the play-by-play of what they're doing. And he's the legislative lead, and he found out that I was the legislative on our board, so he wants to collaborate and discuss some different issues that we have as a minority in different schools. So he put together this report for me, and it just breaks down some of the things he's seen versus going to like 3 meetings a year. So it just gives you a little bit of breakdown on what's happening in the House, in the Senate, by the state, and what they're looking at, what they're voting on. One thing that we do have to do, and I'll address it with the principal, Ms. McDowell, is that it's a lot of options, like Board Member Elba said, for those seniors and juniors to look at type of monies to come to them. We need to take advantage of that. I know we have College Now, and we have them, and we voted for it. Dr. Kaver gave us that, but we need to look at other avenues of getting some funds for our scholars in the high school. So that's what we're looking at. Also, in the Capitol Conference for School Boards, November 13th, the Black Caucus will be having their dinner. It will be held that Sunday before the Capitol Conference of School Boards kicked off that Monday, the 14th. I would like all members to attend. We are members of the Black Caucus. I haven't been involved in it, but I'm getting a lot of input from their president, their vice president, and from other members. So I'd like us to participate that in November.
We typically all do, if possible.
Okay.
You know, if you can make it, that's great. They usually put on a really good event. So, yeah, but we are a member of the Black Caucus.
We are.
Yeah.
That's it, Madam Chair.
What's the date of that at the Capitol Conference?
November 13th is that dinner.
Oh, it's at dinner time?
Yeah.
It's like 6:30.
Sorry.
And it's usually like, it usually kicks off the Capitol Conference. So, like, right, isn't it? Doesn't it usually kick it off? It's like that Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is when they do the actual conference, because it usually falls right around Veterans Day. Yeah.
Can I interject, please?
Sure.
The reason I was asking, and I was going to mention this later in the meeting, but I just found out today that Warrensville Heights is going to have a good prop at the OSBA.
Wow.
They've invited me to present, so I'll be presenting on
nice.
behalf of Warrensville Heights, and it's my study for my doctorate program, so I figured I'd bring some good news for us today.
Congratulations. Yay.
Very
I'd
good.
segue right in since you mentioned the capital
you, Dr.
conference.
Rock.
Thank you
Very
for letting
good.
me interject.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's great
I wanted to make
news.
sure we could, both events, we can do both
Put
events.
a good light on our
Nice.
district. I'm
Very
for it.
nice, yes. And I see in the information that you have here with the Black Caucus that they've got information about grants.
Correct.
Definitely want to make sure that that information gets over to Mr. Jolly.
Correct.
So that he can give it to the proper person on his staff, because they're actually offering grants,
Lots.
so we want to put in for those. Okay, thank you. Was there anything else? Did you have more? Did you have more?
I have a lot more, but I'm not going to address it. I do want to give another kudos to our board president. And I know, Mimi, you may not told people, but Mimi got elected as a board achiever in the state of Ohio. So she's got elected by Ohio school boards to be a board achiever, and she will sit on that committee to give some advice, and they'll sit down and talk about what we can do to make schools better in Ohio. So I want to give you a prop, board achiever from the board of school boards. So good job on that.
Thank you. That was a nice surprise. Thank you, though. All right.
I'm done.
So you are done. 7.2 then, policy
I have one
revision.
thing. I need to add on to the Black Caucus. Since everybody likes limelight, I volunteered Warrensville School District to be a part of the Black Caucus, so we will be making centerpieces from our kids or our adults for the Black Caucus for the dinner. So,
Oh,
Good job.
well, that's nice. Thank you.
That's very nice.
All right. Okay. 7.2, policy revision. So this is as a result of our last meeting and some discussions that we had about evaluating the superintendent and the treasurer. In reviewing it, we found that their contracts don't match with what the policy read. So we reached out to our board attorney and had her to help us with revising this policy. So hopefully the board members have had an opportunity to review it. But again, this is the first reading, so you still have time. But basically, what the two match now. It states that we will do at least one evaluation per year, instead of the way it read was at least every 6 months, which kind of, says we're going to have to do it every 6 months. So we'll, we can have more discussion about this. My recommendation is that first meeting is where we establish board goals, and then we do the actual evaluation later on in the year. But OSBA will be going over the superintendent and treasurer evaluation with the board, so we'll get better guidance from them on what the timeline should be and what should happen, okay? So again, this is just a first reading, and if you have questions or comments, things that you would like me to reach out to the attorney on, we can certainly do that. Okay, does anyone have any questions about that policy? All right, and then there were some other items that came up as a result of the last meeting. I emailed all of the board members the attorney's response. I think that the main thing that I want to kind of put out there is the discussions that we've been having about supplemental contracts. If I'm not mistaken, one of the concerns was the fact that we have some coaches that continue to work after the season has ended. And the explanation from the attorney said, it's not a problem. There is no liability for us if they continue to work with their students after the fact. We're bonded, so it's covered that way. Those coaches just need to know that they are volunteering their time. So they now come in as a, it falls under whatever the board policy states for volunteers. Now, Mr. Jolly and Coach Swift and whoever else on his administrative team probably still want to shore some things up in terms of when they want to get supplementals posted and things like that. But as far as, you know, any kind of liability for the board, we're covered. Okay? So there's more in the email. Please feel free to read it if you've
I
got
didn't get that
additional
email. Did you
questions.
send that?
Yeah, I did send it. You should have been on it because I sent it to all the board members. I'll resend it though, right now.
Appreciate it.
Yep. It says board members, are you not? Yeah, I'll resend it. Let's see here. Bear with me. All right, well, that's it. So do we have any correspondence that came in, Dr. Rock? No correspondence?
No.
All right, we have nothing under new business. Upcoming board meetings, the board will be meeting on August 2nd. It's not on here, but on August 2nd, we will begin our strategic planning process. This process is going to consist of several administrators on Mr. Jolly's administrative team. We'll have community members. Our very own Carletta Fellows will be helping us from the mayor's office. I believe there's there's a parent. In all, we'll end up with about 14 people that will help us with the first portion of it. So we're looking at 3 rounds of meeting with OSBA to come up with our footprint for how we're going to move this district forward over the next couple of years.
I have a
So,
question.
yes,
Strategic plan, how much is this costing for OSBA to come?
$8,500.
Okay, we have to vote on that. Anytime the board spends
We
money.
need to
Wait,
put that
and
on
wait,
there.
wait a minute. My other thing was that Paul Pendleton and his team came in the 2013-14 school year, and we paid an astronomical amount for the exact same thing. It gets a little gray as to why we're doing another one 2.5 years. And are we going back to look at that to combine the two, or are we just every 2 years, is there going to be a plan to do a new one?
No, so the reason we're doing a new strategic plan is because the plan that we had before was based on the old standards. A lot of it dealt with the old standards that have now been updated. So if you look at the strategic plan that's on the website, it's not current. It's not based on new stuff. So back to what you said about the $8,500. You are correct, we do need to vote on that. We can go ahead and do an amendment if you guys are good with that. But the cost is $8,500 for OSBA to come in and facilitate it. Can we do it that way, just do an amendment at this time?
You would make a motion.
Okay, all right. Is
Table.
that agreeable to everybody? Because we are doing this next Tuesday, and it should have been on the agenda, so I apologize. All right, everybody good with that? Member Elba?
All we have to do is vote on it.
Okay. All right, so can I please have a motion? And the motion will be to accept OSBA's contract for the strategic planning process.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve the actual contract for OSBA for strategic planning for the Warrensville Heights City School Board at a cost of $8,500.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes, motion passed 5-0, and thank you for pointing that out.
One more thing. Anything that we do, we have to vote on. Anytime we spend money, we didn't vote on the retirement party, even though we all agreed to it, and there was a dollar amount spent. Those become things, and they can go on the next agenda, because I'm sure nobody knows the exact dollar amount. But anytime we spend money, we have to vote.
We'll get clarification on all of that. So let me just say that, let me just say this. Let me just say this, please. We send out the agenda to all of the board members. You're able to access it prior to the meeting, and I always ask you guys to please take a look at it. I don't have all the answers. If you see that there's something that's missing, something that we need to do, please reach out to me prior to the meeting and let me know. That's all I ask. But I thank you for bringing that up, and we will make sure we get it addressed, okay?
I do need to say one more thing.
And then that's it, but go right ahead.
That whenever there's a superintendent out of the office, out of the district, there has to be someone that's licensed as a superintendent to carry the district, just like with the treasurer.
Okay. Do we have anything else that we need to address today? No? Okay. So can I please have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move that this board adjourn the meeting on July 28th, 2016, regular meeting.
I second it.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator.
Yes, motion passed 5-0. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We knew this would be a short meeting, but we appreciate everybody coming out.
There was nobody here to stand in the district, that's why I made the comment.